Ah, wow. So, right.
I may be wrong, but
Well,
I believe that
I
was
mean,
it was in
it's
that
been a few
area.
years, but the, uh, the information in there and how to go about investigating a case and how, it's got everything in there. It's got reference material in there. So it's got many .coms that you'll want to familiar yourself with to get information from. Um, it explains all the tools necessary. Uh, most ufology, uh, it the invest like the majority of the MUFON reports can be handled over the phone, as far as because they're just reporting something and there's really nothing else to do besides take the report, put it in the database. That way, other people, if they've seen the same thing, they can look and see if anyone else has seen it, that kind of thing. But for the cases where people there's it's either something's landed, there's some physical evidence, uh, maybe multiple people seen it, it's something worth investigating, and then also of course the abduction stuff. That kind of stuff is you want to go out there for. But you know, um, as far as a MUFON investigator, uh, the heaviest, like the what we call the most heavy duty cases, usually get handled by like the STAR team, for example, or just the higher ups. Will get that. So it's it's the kind of thing where you expect it's a lot of just taking the report and being all at the same time, being able to share your wisdom with them, and because a lot of times people report stuff, they're looking for information in turn,
Well,
to kind of
yes.
ease their fears in a sense. And it's like, yeah, you've seen some amazing, in most cases, you didn't get hurt, it was just a sighting, everything's gonna be fine, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
I do,
Um,
just to kind of give some comfort as well as gather information and let them know that it's not the end of the world that they've experienced this. It's really, yeah, I think a lost time incident would be different. I agree, like an abduction or
right.
whatever
that
happens.
that you want to get, there's with that an abduction case and even a demonic case are similar in that they really need to be investigated and looked at, like how you would like the physical health, psychology. Um, and once stuff like that's happening, you really got to break down and look at a lot of different things, to truly assess if that's truly what's going on.
Absolutely. Because, that's one thing I was fortunate enough to meet someone who had a very famous abduction in the 70s, and he went through absolute, well, just what am I trying to say? It wasn't. People tried to discredit him. He was gone for a while. When he came back, people thought that he was crazy and making stuff up, or that he had been off doing something illicit and was going to be just trying to make something up to cover that up. And to this day, from I guess 75 to now, he's never changed his story in any recording or anything like that. But he had to go through the wire, the ringer to for people to ascertain that, well, maybe he's not a nut, you
You're
know.
right, and even with the witnesses, there were even witnesses that corroborate his story. I know what case you're talking about.
So do we. So do
Oh
I.
yes, yeah,
Right.
and there were witnesses who saw that, and the witnesses haven't changed their story either.
No, they
And even
haven't.
with all of that, he still got put through the ringer.
Yeah. Even after they all passed polygraphs.
Yeah.
Yes, and I mean they were going to be charged with killing him, right?
Right.
Because that
Yeah.
everybody thought that was the only thing that could have happened.
Right,
That
because he was missing at that point. He was a missing person, wasn't he?
he
Yeah.
was for several days.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
it's like all of a sudden, okay, so you guys all went off in the woods, and you came out with one less guy,
Yeah.
right? I
and
mean,
everyone, like,
average
oh,
bear would say, "Yep, that's probably right."
he's gonna
And
say,
this
oh,
was an extenuate. I mean, This was just so bizarre.
Right.
And I just felt because it was the first time I had heard the story from him. And, I just felt for him because I can't even imagine going through something like that when you're, in your prime and having fun and living life. And then all of a sudden this happens and it's just kind of like, well.
There is no doubt that
Gosh.
event changed his world.
Yeah. It did. And,
Well,
he doesn't think for the better.
No, well, what happened to him was extremely severely traumatic.
Yes.
We can say that because he talks about it, but we also have to wonder for the people that doubt him, they weren't physically there with him, so they have no idea what he went through, what he saw, what he heard, what he felt.
Right, and it's not just that he was abducted; it's that he was with them for a period of time.
Right.
Yes.
And
I think that
what
was
were
the
they
part
doing?
that wigged me out the worst when he was describing waking up, because you have to be a stone not to feel what he felt when he's describing that. And I'm glad that I haven't had a client dealing with that, because the empath side of me would just go nuts. I would want to, take them home and stroke them and feed them cookies, right? Where they need to have somebody being strong. I mean, I really would do the work, but they need strong support in that circumstance. And I'm glad, as I said, that I have not had to deal with that yet. I don't know what I would do. Have you contemplated? Do you have a plan in place for dealing with that?
Well, there is. I mean, first of all, you got to address the PTSD and anything that goes with that. People that really go through that kind of experience, it is beneficial for them to see a psychologist or a psychotherapist, and one that's not going to ridicule them. See, and that's
exactly. That's the key, though.
Right, and you'll find that the good news is that more and more, just psychologists, psychotherapists, sociologists, the ones that are dealing with, even psychiatrists, believe it or not, there's a few of them, not many psychiatrists, I'll say, but certainly the other ones more so, that are I guess, thinking outside the box and appreciating things for what they are.
Yes.
And with not all of them, but many of them, you'll find that they're retired. It's the kind of thing where they'll practice for so many years under with the general stuff. Once they retire from a firm or outfit or what have you, then there's no fear of getting fired if you take on something like spirit release therapy or an abduction case or, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because with something like that, if there's a percentage of these people where it really did happen.
Yes.
And so the health professionals got to acknowledge that. So do you want to be the firm that acknowledges alien abductions and possession happen? Right? You see what I'm saying? Because people will it doesn't happen often. And, I'm not speaking for anybody, but I do know just, from we've interviewed all kinds of psychologists and doctors and stuff about this kind of stuff. And between that and having experience, I guess we can just say, that it does happen. And I'm just glad that more people are coming around, I guess. That's a really good thing.
It's an important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. There's it's great. There are books in our library that are written by the psychologists and psychiatrists and who have come to understand certain realities. In other words, like as far as the what I call Rockefeller medicine, the idea is that it all comes from within. Any mental issue is created internally. Whereas the opposing belief is that an outside source, unseen, can come in and affect somebody. And whether that's like demonic or even with, some of these. And I tell you, some of the alien abduction reports are really weird. They are they're either borderline demonic or they are actually demonic. When you're talking about going through walls and being able to do all this different kind of stuff and some of the negative experience, especially if they've had night terrors or nightmares or they get bits and pieces of really nasty stuff. You got to, anybody being messed with in the middle of the night while they're sleeping or at their home in their sanctuary is not a creature of love and light.
It's like, I'll give you an example. There was a case study that I came through during my training with my mentor, and he mentions it in one of his books that I have, where this woman contacted him because she thought she was having visitations every night at 3 a.m. from the small gray aliens. The first instant she had was she was laying in bed one night, 3 o'clock in the morning. She all of a sudden goes paralyzed, can't move, can't speak, could only move her eyes, looks toward her wall and sees 6 small grays come through. After they get in, they part sides, and in through the wall comes this taller gray alien. The first time she's seeing it, she thought it was the coolest thing because she'd heard about UFOs and aliens and always wanted to encounter one.
Oh, well, Jennifer.
Yes.
Can I pause you so that we can come back to this? Because this is amazing. And we have to take a break. I don't want to get further in and then interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I can't wait to hear this. We will be back in 2, people.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And we are back. You're listening to Paranormal Experience Radio with my guests, Kevin and Jennifer Malek. And Jennifer, I'm so sorry to interrupt that, but that was going to be too fascinating to have to cut right in the middle once you got farther. So she was actually experiencing a paralysis?
Yes, she was experiencing a paralysis. Now, after the first night, these things started popping up for days and days and days, to the point where she started to get scared. Because the same scenario, 3 a.m., she's asleep,